Hi friends, it is week 15 of the Alive to Thrive series. I'm Angela with scarsandtiaras.com, and this week I decided to do something I should have done a long time ago because a friend of mine reminded me that not everyone knows what my painful past is. And it's a little overwhelming to think about trying to cram in 22 years of pain into a video that is at least kind of a bite size and you're not sitting in front of your phone or computer for too long. But I thought, okay, this is a video I've been wanting to do for the site in general, and I can do it better later, but for now I'll just do this. So as far back as I can remember, I have been hurt by someone. So it started off with memories of my stepfather, who would both love me and beat me, and would do horrific things to my older brother and myself, including everything from just overworking us as young children by making us do dishes when we were very young, and then ripping all the dishes out of the cabinets if they weren't cleaned to his specifications, because as you know, 4- and 5-year-olds should know how to do dishes perfectly, and to all the way to rubbing dirty, messy diapers in our faces and our hair. So we have run the gamut with him, and the problem with that relationship was that before his own children came along, even though he might have been somewhat abusive to me, I felt like daddy's girl. I didn't have my own biological father in my life, and this was the first father I knew, and he just kind of brushed me aside when he had his own children, and he became much more abusive toward me. And there are a lot of blank spots that I'm actually talking through counseling with right now, because I don't know who, what, where, some of the things that are happening. Now, my mom does not show up in my memories for quite a long time. And I'm not sure why that is as well, because I actually have a long stretching memory in general. So I remember incidents and I remember things, but I don't remember my mom that often. And my mom was a victim of abuse as well, from child abuse herself, and then repeated domestic violence. But my mom also became an abuser. Without going into too much of that, she was dismissive, abusive, mentally, verbally, physically. And by the time I was 13, we were living in a very bad place. We didn't have electricity, we didn't have water, and it was a spider-infested trailer, 2-bedroom with 4 kids and my mom, and things were not good. We tried to make the best of situations, but things were not good. And essentially, as things started to get a little bit better and we had phone and electricity, I met my ex-husband. I met him on a radio station, and we had some interesting beginnings there, all in the book. And so at 13, I met this guy. He was 17, and we became very intimate, I guess, really rather soon. It felt like a long time for me, but soon for him, or too long for him, soon for me. And it was my first time. I had never had sex with anyone before, and although I had been sexually molested and abused and assaulted throughout some of those other years, during the time with my stepfather, during the time with my mother, and so those are all incidents in my past as well that I was healing from. So I was in a desperate place, and I met this guy, and I call him Nate in the book, and I'll just refer to him as Nate. I met Nate at a time when I was very, very desperate. I wanted to get out of this abusive situation. I wanted to get out of my life, and things were not good. So by the time I was 14, we had been dating for a while, and I became pregnant. And in my 14th year, I got pregnant, got married, and had a baby. So all of that wrapped into this. I was a child, really. And of course, you couldn't have told me that at the time, but I was a child. 13 and 14 is a child, and we shouldn't be making grown-up decisions. And yet there I was making grown-up decisions and then parenting someone else. So my life just took off from a very early age, and I was in this marriage that was very controlling. He was very unfaithful. He was in and out of jail, and he was abusive, but not physically abusive as often as most people expect when you talk about abuse. And so from the time I was 13 to the time I was 22, I was with this man, and we had 3 children together. And there was just a lot of hurt, a lot of pain. Again, that's all written out in my memoir, which hopefully I'll get an agent for soon and get published. Otherwise, I'll just take matters in my own hand and publish it myself. But my point is, there was a lot of trauma in that point of time. And so what I'm healing from is all this abuse before my ex-husband, this childhood abuse, this sexual assault, this sexual molestation, and then this marriage at a very young age that was very controlling, abusive. There was sexual abuse in the marriage, and there was physical abuse, as well as, of course, the mental abuse. And so by the time I'm 22, I'm a broken girl, and I have 3 children that I have to be whole for, which is really difficult, but I feel like I did as well as I could without hurting them back. So when I hear people talk about this person did this to another person because they were hurt, I understand and I have compassion for that, for their pain, but I don't have really understanding for making that decision to carry that cycle through. So for me, it was very important to break that cycle, and first do no harm is how I approached parenting, without really a good role model for how to be a good parent, and not knowing how any of that's actually supposed to look in a healthy life, in a healthy relationship, healthy parenting, etc. So all of this is what I am healing from, and that is why it is not a quick and easy journey. That is why going to counseling, for instance, several years afterwards for about 8-9 months is not really the most effective. And one of the things that my counselor now that I'm back in counseling, said to me this past week was, you're very logical about everything, and you can talk about everything in a very logical, this happened kind of way. And when I ask you how you feel, you give me logical things instead of how you actually feel. So that's a little, well, it's not really eye-opening, because I've been told that in my writing, that when I write, I tell the facts and then I have to go back and insert some feeling because it's easier to not feel. And it really is easier to not feel, because when I start feeling it, I'm going to have to start feeling it. And so that's why I and many others will try to avoid talking about the hard things. And perhaps probably why I've glossed over and not really gone into what my painful past actually is, because it's not just a painful past, it's a ton of trauma. And again, it's like I'm glossing over it now because I have to fit it into this timely video to, for the internet and for you as a viewer, because I know we're all busy and we all have things to do, and I want to honor your time and thank you for being here. But there's just not enough time to sit there and tell you every single detail. But that's what I'm trying to do with the books that I'm writing, is to not just as a shock and awe tell you what I've been through, but what I've been through and how I'm trying to heal from it. And I'm hoping that that's what I can do with these videos, is help you see that there's a lot of trauma, there's a lot of pain, but there's also that hope over here that is just very uplifting, that we can get through things that are hard. We can do hard things, but not we can do hard things. We can survive hard things, and then we can thrive from hard things. So going into next week, I will be talking about permission, as I thought I would this week, but I think it's important that we do get a real concept of what it is that I'm talking about, because some people might think along the terms of, and again, no comparison, but maybe thinking along the terms of, I don't know if she gets what I'm trying to heal from. I was raped, and she doesn't get that because she just has a painful past, and I don't know what it is. Or whatever the case may be. Your trauma is not bigger than mine. My trauma is not bigger than yours. But I want you to understand that I do have real trauma in my past, and it affects me. It affects my daily life, and it helps me to understand how it affects your daily life, and why we sometimes feel like we're going forward and then we're going backwards. Forward and then backwards. Up and then down. It makes sense to me, whereas for some people it doesn't make sense at all. So I just wanted to give you that overview. You are welcome to ask me any other questions. I'm so grateful for the people who say, whoa, 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 tell me more of the story. I actually need to know what you're talking about, where you're coming from. I appreciate that. I thank you for tuning in. It's been 15 weeks of amazingness for me, because this is helping me grow. And I just hope and pray it's helping you grow in some way or another, giving you hope, helping you see things in a different way, whatever the case may be. I'm just grateful for you, and I thank you. Find me at scarsandtiaras.com. Thank you.